So, what if I told you there's a kind of universal operating manual for success? A hidden blueprint that connects a failing car company in the 1950s with, believe it or not, an ancient design for how to live a flourishing life. Stick with me, because this is a fascinating one.
I mean, we've all had this feeling, right? You're pouring your heart and soul into something, a project at work, a relationship, a personal goal, and you're just spinning your wheels. It is so frustrating. And it's that exact feeling of crisis that really kicks off our story today. So for that, let's go back in time. Picture this, Nagoya, Japan, 1950. The Toyota Motor Company is on the absolute brink of collapse. They were having what you could call a crisis of effort, and what they figured out in that moment would literally change the entire industrial world. This phrase just says it all. You've got these brilliant engineers, you've got dedicated workers putting in 12-hour days, day in and day out. But the cars coming off the assembly line, they were a total mess. Wildly inconsistent, the quality was so bad people actually nicknamed it Toyota Roulette. All that hard work was going absolutely nowhere, and the company was about to go under. So, in a moment of sheer desperation, they bring in this American statistician, a guy named W. Edwards Deming, and his diagnosis just blew their minds. He saw that Toyota was operating on this belief that you just work harder and harder, and then you try to catch all the mistakes at the end. Deming told them that is fundamentally completely wrong. You can't inspect quality into a car, you have to build it in from the very first step. And this, right here, was the crucial game-changing shift. They stopped pointing fingers. The question was no longer, who made this mistake? Instead, it became, what's wrong with our process that allowed this mistake to happen? You see, quality, as Deming showed them, isn't about effort. It's about aligning with the design specifications at every single step of the way. The results were, well, they were staggering. As soon as Toyota started aligning their work with their own designs, their defect rate plummeted by 50% in the first year. In 5 years, they were competing in the US market. And within 20 years, the name Toyota meant reliability. They had found their missing manual. They weren't just working harder, they were finally working in alignment with the design.
Okay, so here's where this story gets really interesting. That big lesson from Toyota, it's not just about building cars, not even close. It's a universal principle, and once you start looking for it, you see it absolutely everywhere. Just think about it. In every single field, the people who are true masters discover the same thing. When you fight the inherent design of something, you get friction and failure. But when you align with it, you get flow and success. Coders write clean code that follows the logic of a problem. Farmers use permaculture to work with nature, not against it. Doctors help support the body's own amazing design for healing. And you can't force a good relationship. You have to create the right conditions and let it grow. Steve Jobs just nailed it with this one. This isn't about making things look pretty. Real design is about the deep, fundamental logic of how something is meant to function. And that leads to a pretty revolutionary question. What if reality itself has an inherent design, an operating manual that we can actually read and follow? And this brings us right to the heart of this whole thing. What if this operating manual for reality isn't some brand new discovery? What if it's been documented for thousands of years in an ancient text that maybe we've completely misunderstood? To really get this, we have to look at just a few key Hebrew words. Let's start with Torah. Now, we almost always hear this translated as law, but that's not really what it means. The root word is about pointing or aiming, like an archer trying to hit a target. So it's not a book of harsh rules. It's a set of technical instructions. It's an owner's manual for how things are designed to work. Okay, next up is the word tov, which gets translated as good in the creation story. But again, this isn't a moral judgment. It's really an engineering term. It means fit for its purpose or functionally complete. So when the text says that creation was tov, it's like an engineer signing off on a project. System is online, everything is working according to the design specifications. And finally, there's the word for sin, chata. This is a big one. It's not a moral term at all. It's an archery term that literally means to miss the mark. So sin isn't about breaking a rule and making some divine being angry. It's a technical term for a malfunction. It's what happens when you operate outside the design, and it leads to a predictable system failure.
So when you put these simple definitions together, the implication is just stunning. It suggests that the Bible can be read not just as a religious book, but as a technical manual for reality itself, one that lays out the design specifications for how human beings and their societies flourish. The commandments aren't just restrictions, they're revelations about the design of the system.
But okay, that's a pretty big claim. Does this blueprint actually work in the real world? Let's look at two modern case studies where people stopped treating this text as a religious book and started using it like an operational manual. And the results? They were transformative.
So meet the Morrison family. They were in a state of total system failure. The marriage was in crisis, one of their kids was struggling with self-harm, another felt totally invisible. But instead of just trying harder, they started looking for specific instructions in the manual. For example, the instruction for a husband wasn't just to be a good guy, but to actively pursue his wife's heart as a primary mission. For their struggling teen, the protocol was to connect with her emotionally before trying to correct her behavior. You see, these weren't just nice ideas, they were operational shifts. And the result? The entire family system began to heal because they finally started operating it according to its design.
Now here's a totally different story. A massive church that from the outside looked super successful. Big numbers, big budget, but on the inside it was dying. The staff was burned out and people's lives weren't really changing. So they made this radical decision to throw out their corporate operating system and installed a biblical OS. They stopped measuring attendance and started measuring life transformation. They swapped entertainment for real community. It was a total overhaul. And get this, it wasn't some one-off fluke. The transformation was so real and so profound that it became a reproducible model. Over 500 other churches saw what happened and started implementing the very same biblical specifications. It just goes to show the manual works when you actually follow it. So all of this, from Toyota to ancient texts to modern stories, it all brings this huge concept right back to us, to our own lives. How can we start applying this principle of building by design instead of just by brute force? I have one last powerful redefinition for you. It's the Hebrew word for righteousness, tzedakah. We usually think this means being morally perfect, but its real meaning is architectural. It means the state of being as it should be. When a builder makes a wall that is perfectly plumb, perfectly vertical, that wall is tzedek. Righteousness isn't about trying to be good. It's about being in perfect alignment with the blueprint. This quote from a Lego master builder just captures the whole idea perfectly. He said that when you really understand the logic of the Lego pieces, you're not forcing them together. You're simply helping them become what they were already designed to be. You see, alignment isn't about control and force, it's about discovery and release. And that leaves us with this final question to think about. In your own life, in your work, in your relationships, in your biggest goals, where are you applying that maximum effort for minimal results? Where are you trying to build with force? And what might it look like to stop, take a breath, and instead try to build by design?